It looks like we got a good live stream going, and this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee, where I live for many years. And today we're going to cover a continuation coverage of what's going on with this pending Iranian war. Now, I'm telling you, this thing is going to make the Ukrainian-Russian war not look very big. Okay? You never heard Russia or Ukraine say, oh, if he attacks me, I'm going to attack all these other countries and stuff like that. But Iran is repeatedly saying that, and they have demonstrated that back in June when they did strike American troops based in Qatar. Okay? And they had no trouble doing it. All right? Russia and or Ukraine did not shut down the Persian Gulf and choke off 20% of the world's oil supply, which Iran will definitely, I would say definitely, or at least a 90% chance, take a poke at. Okay? And, we're going to look at Trump and we see, look, how many months has this thing in Venezuela been going on? And he hasn't really attacked Venezuela. What has he done? He's grabbed defenseless oil tankers and confiscated them, and he's had the Navy shoot down and sink and kill defenseless drug cartel boats. And then he sent in special forces to do it was absolutely a great job. You'd have to be lying through your teeth to sit here and say that wasn't a real great feat they did. It was a great feat. And they grabbed, what's his name, Maduro and wife, and now he's in New York, not walking around the streets trying to figure out which pizza store has the best pizza. He's in federal court, in a federal jail. And, the chances of Maduro getting off not guilty is what, 1%? I mean, come on, So I'm going to also be talking today about what the phony experts are telling you. I heard one this morning that was a guy saying he was in the ex-CIA guy talking about this. Oh, my gosh. What do you think happens if you say you're ex-CIA? Do you think anybody comes and arrests you? I doubt it. I don't know what, do you ever hear stolen valor where people run around saying they're ex-CIA? There's people all over the country that I think there's something wrong with them in the head. And they buy uniforms and they make themselves out to be, I don't know what, Green Berets or Navy SEALs or whatever. And, if they walk around in a uniform impersonating, that's a problem. They usually just hold themselves out to be Navy SEAL. And, I've known people in the special forces, and when you talk to them, you can usually pick it up. And I've seen people faking it. Once I was on a cruise ship, and there was some people that were kind of newlyweds, and they worked the routine where she said something about him being a pilot, and then he chastised her in the jacuzzi, she should know not to talk about that. Now, that's really not how a pilot is going to behave with his wife. Okay? That's a jerk that wants people to think he's a pilot, and they're going to play a little charade like that, right? Okay? That's number one. I saw once a guy at a theme park walking around wearing what appeared to be some form of combat boots, jeans, and a tight T-shirt that said Navy SEALs on it. And the guy definitely was working out. It looks like I don't know what he was doing for workout. He was fit. And he's walking around that way with an attitude. Okay, was that a real Navy SEAL? No. No real Navy SEAL that I know of would do that. I mean, you got to understand, that's the type of thing that's going to get you into a fight. Okay? And when you get into a fight, now, if you get attacked, someone comes at you, you're a Navy SEAL, they come at you and they try to rob your wallet, okay. Or they hit you over the head or they try to carjack you. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a fight, you know, that could be avoided. And not an assault or a robbery or a murder attempt. I mean, they throw you out of the Navy SEALs. You could even get thrown out of the military on a dishonorable. Or you could get busted in rank, or you could get other punishment, suspension, or you could even get a week or a month in jail. That'd be unlikely. But now, if you go back to the 80s, the Navy SEALs would go out in a group to drink in the bars at night, and they would get into fights and call it unarmed combat training. Those days are over. Were those kind of Navy SEALs tougher? Yeah, in a bar. But does that mean they're going to be tougher in combat? No. What are you going to do? I mean, if they wanted to use street fighters or, good fighters, they would, if that's what was important to their actions and their missions, they would hire boxers from the Olympics. They would hire champion college wrestlers. That's real wrestling. They would hire people that excel in martial arts, and they don't do that. I think that this thing varies from time to time. In some parts of the military, at some years they would offer martial arts training. In other years, they used really good unarmed combat training that worked, like in World War II. Fairbairn and what was his name? Sykes. They really worked a good. They had a great unarmed combat system. Look, the unarmed combat system today, and going back 1,400 years ago, was the same thing. Unarmed is unarmed. They had knives 1,400 years ago. They had sticks. They had garrots. Okay, so we're going to go through this, and I'm going to explain to you why a lot of these so-called experts are not experts. Okay, they're just not. Okay, because they don't understand really what's going on. And you see, somebody could be in the CIA, and what did he do? Well, his job might have been to watch and observe the Peruvian stock market. Or he could have been watching the soybeans out of, I don't know, Vietnam or something, right? Or the rice out of Vietnam. Economic intel is extremely important to the CIA. Extremely. Super important. Look, troop movements, that's public information today. Drones and reconnaissance planes, radar, there are no secret troop movements anymore, but secret economic information is still what they go after. That's big time. So people that get into the CIA that are, what do they call them, intelligence officers or something, or case officer with an office or something, they're not stupid people. They're going to have a good memory. You're going to have to pass a written test. Are they going to test them for their logic? Generally, no, because these people don't know from logic. Okay? The bosses of the CIA and the military generally don't are not good at logic. Okay, they don't go for that. They go for memorization, comprehension, reading comprehension, stuff like that. They'll show, a CIA test could be, they'll show you a picture and let you look at it for 30 seconds, then they take it away, and then you got to answer questions about the picture. See, that's trying to see how good of a grunt you are. That's all. Bureaucrats run it. What Trump put that guy, what was his name? I think his name is Patel, in charge of the FBI. Never so much worked as a meter maid in his life. See, he's a Satan bot, and it's the Satan bot's that on desire to run these agencies. Okay, so today is the Tuesday, 8:42 in the morning, 13th of January. Okay, let me go take a look at the. So I'm going to show you what Trump's doing, and it's rather consistent, and it's going to have an effective. It's going to be effective, and I'll give you the logic behind that and the methods that are likely going to be used. Okay, and it ain't going to be aircraft carrier or ground forces. You can take that off the table. Tanks and all that, take it off the table. Okay. Cyber warfare, take it off the table. That ain't going to be it. Let's see. Cyber warfare, take it off the table. That ain't going to be it. Let's see. Cyber warfare. Okay, I'll turn the device right side up. I don't think it makes a hoot of a difference. Here we go. Every day somebody says this. I'm sorry I upset you guys. You can run them upside down. But here we go. I got it right side up. Okay? All right. Glad to accommodate. I'm sorry I upset you guys. You can run them upside down. But here we go. I got it right side up. Okay? All right, glad to accommodate. I don't mind. I don't think it's your OCD. I think you were trying to be helpful. Uh, I don't even think it's a sign of OCD. I don't mind. I don't think it's your OCD. I think you were trying to be helpful. Uh, I don't even think it's a sign of OCD. I'll just be a few seconds. I'll be done with this. Seconds. I'll just be a few seconds. I'll be done with this. Seconds. Okay, I'm done. Let's see, make sure people coming in. Yeah, we're fine. Okay. All right, being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. There is no God like Jehovah. You can join in if you're a believer. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 His name's not Yahweh. That's not it. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So to understand the typical knee jerk you're going to get from these people, I was a colonel. The guy could have been a colonel. I knew a guy that was a colonel. He was a pretty okay guy. I'm old, so this was in the 70s, and the guy was in Hawaii for a million years in the military. He was in the army, and he was in requisitions. He was buying things for the government. What does he know about war? Okay. Now there's a guy out there that's a former Navy or Air Force pilot. I don't remember. I think Air Force. I don't remember. One of the two. Combat, I believe. And he understands the situation a lot better. I don't want to mention names, but he also works as a commercial airline pilot. He's retired, and I believe he works, he's in the reserves, like Air Force reserves or something. So he can keep flying occasionally, I guess, People that have been, I knew a guy that was a fighter pilot, retired, people that have spent their time in the military, they put their 20, 30 years in, whatever they can stretch out of the military. They're very rarely going to say the military is doing anything wrong or the government's doing anything wrong because they committed their whole work life to this government. So trying to teach them who the daughter of Babylon is ain't going to work. You're not going to get anywhere with that. It's just a nice chicken soup. I like a nice warm soup in the morning. It's so cold, Last night we had the so-called great storm. I think they had winds of 30 or 40 miles an hour. They were making everybody so upset. So we made special measures for the birds and everything, and for the dogs. And it was a lot of rain last night. I heard the rain. And stuff like that. By the way, if you guys want to try something for sleep, I'm not a doctor, nor am I any kind of trained or licensed healthcare professional of any way, shape, or form. Just as a layperson, I'll give you my experiences of what I found. That seems to be interesting. Although I did not take this because I needed to go to sleep, I took it for muscle relaxation reasons, but it's called magnesium BIS glycinate. One word, BIS glycinate. Magnesium glycinate. Very cheap. Very harmless as far as all the studies go that I could find. You take anywhere from 100 to 350 milligrams, and it really helps with sleep. You get into a different level of sleep. It's pretty interesting. I did it for muscle reasons, but it's pleasant as all get up. And another one is, it has a similar name, but it's very different. Glycine. Glycine. I did it so I don't wake up as much as I used to go to the bathroom. So, but I found that it's somewhat effective in that area. It takes time, and I'm doing other supplements which take time, but it does have a degree of effectiveness right away. But man, it makes your sleep really sweet, And it's a harmless thing, as far as they say. Yeah, I mean, everybody says there's no side effects with this stuff. Glycine could cause a loose stool or something, but it's rather rare. So you'd have to, what I would suggest is start with a low dose and then, over, a few days elevate and see what happens. So, okay. So why? Okay, the standard knee jerk is, well, when the war comes, Trump's going to bring one or two aircraft carrier groups over here. No, he's not. He brought them and he was fighting Yemen with them and they got busted up. More than once, they had to go down to Saudi Arabia to get repairs. Planes, they were saying, were falling off the deck. Nonsense. They were getting knocked down by the Yemen. And he got scared of losing these so-called capital ships and took them away. It removed them from the area. And yeah, they got hit. They really did. And, the United States doesn't like to reveal this, but they did. Did guys get killed? I don't know. It's easy for them to, if a guy got killed, to just tell the people on there that they got to keep their mouths shut about it or they're going to be in trouble, and tell the family there was an accident or something, whatever. I don't know, Okay. I think when somebody gets killed and their family lives on the base, they're nice enough to give them 30 days to get off the base. That's it. They don't want them there because it's going to drag morale down for the others. Okay? And the others are going to feel indebted to help them and this and that. So they get them off the base in 30 days. And they give them some, I think they get $250,000 or something for a regular soldier. I don't know. And then I imagine there's soldiers that buy private insurance and they can get another $250,000, or who knows, So they don't send the remaining family away with their hat in their hand, begging for money. They give them that, that death benefit. So they got money for a while anyway, Trump's not bringing capital ships into the region. Destroyers, missile carriers are not really a capital ship. That's a regular warship, but the aircraft carrier is. Now, with Venezuela, he's not that worried, so he's using these, we can call them small aircraft carriers. They're not the real aircraft carriers. They carry 2,000 or so, maybe even 2,500 Expeditionary Force Marines. These boats belong to the Navy, and they can carry a handful of helicopters and a handful of vertical takeoff planes, maybe two handfuls, not just one. But they're not running around with 90 planes like an aircraft carrier. They can maybe run around with 23, 25, and they carry some tanks and landing craft and artillery and missile pod launchers and all kinds of stuff in the boat. So they're for landing and then taking action against an adversary, okay? You can't use that against Iran with a massive military, okay? We need to look up how big is the Iranian military, because it's huge and it's highly relevant to what's going on today. So let's look it up. Size of the Iranian military. Size of the Iranian military. Let's see. They've got 610,000 active duty, and they have 350,000 these would be reservists. Okay, so you got 1 million people. So to invade and occupy, the general war college theory, which is reasonably accurate, is 3 to 1. So you need 3 million soldiers. America couldn't do that if it wanted to. Where's Trump going to find that many soldiers from other NATO countries with all the trouble with Russia? I mean, he's not going to get anywhere near that up. Let's say Trump got bold and threw in 300,000 soldiers. Where's he going to get the other 2.7 million from? He's not. So you can forget completely about a ground invasion and occupation. I don't see it at all. The Bible prophecies about Iran, which is referred to as Elam, E-L-A-M, in Jeremiah 49, don't give any indication of an occupation, an invasion followed with an occupation. So I don't believe that's going to ever happen. So why would Trump not bring aircraft carriers into the theater? Well, Iran has a lot of boats that look like commercial vessels. Like they might look like a tanker. It might look like a container ship or a grain ship or a banana boat or whatever. And they're designed to carry weapons, and it doesn't look that way. So there's missiles in the containers that are stacked high on the deck, and they open the roof of these special containers, and out go the missiles. And the same boat could also launch a large amount of drones. And then they got other boats that just launch drones. They've got a runway at the end of the boat that curves up, and the drones go up, so they could launch hundreds of drones. And they can launch both. And these look like civilian vessels, so they can be approached. Now, Iran doesn't have the money to go out and build, $3 billion aircraft carriers, even, or build, $500 million destroyers. They have a destroyer or two or three, maybe. Most of the other stuff they got is junk. Okay. Now they have go fast boats. They have over 1,500 of these things. Essentially, they're 50 to 80 or 90 foot, probably more like, 50 to 65 foot range. They're all different. They're civilian, like pleasure craft that they convert. They have all different versions. They put a 50 caliber machine gun on it. They can put a 20 millimeter gun, a 25 millimeter gun on it. They can launch torpedoes off the deck. They have missile launchers on them. They put mortars on them. All kinds of stuff on these things, right? And let's say you're attacking an aircraft carrier with these go fast boats. America, let's say it was really a bad situation, puts 3 aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf. How do you take out an aircraft carrier? Well, you probably just have to send about 30 or maybe 50 or 70 even, or 150 if you want, of these go fast boats to swarm the aircraft carrier. Now, sometimes they don't have a machine gun type thing on there. They have like a 3-inch artillery piece or something like that. So, you can shoot whatever you got. If it's a 20, 25 millimeter gun, you're going to be damaging the aircraft carrier. You're going to be shredding any planes on the deck you can get at, right? And you could launch torpedoes at the aircraft carrier. But mind you, let's say you and 18 other boats simultaneously each launch 2 torpedoes at the aircraft carrier. Figuring out, well, if it goes this way, we'll send torpedoes that way, this way, this way, this way. So wherever the boat goes, torpedoes are coming at it. Could they destroy these go-fast boats? Yes. Could they destroy a lot of them? Yes. But you don't need many to get through. Now, they load some of these with anti-ship missiles. Now, if you take one anti-ship missile coming off a small boat, is it going to sink the aircraft carrier? Well, what did it hit? Did it hit a plane on the deck and cause fires and other planes were exploding and all this stuff? Could that be the case? Could be. Could it hit the tower where all the officers stand? There's 3 or 4 floors. And yeah, would that blow it up? Yeah. Would that make the ship somewhat unusable? Maybe not, because they have alternate controls inside the boat. So they can maybe just disconnect that and run it from inside. It may not be that easy. It might be. They could hit the radar things that spin around. Beacons, I guess they call them. Or spheres or discs, whatever, right? Even just spraying the decks and the tower where the officers sit with 50 millimeter and 20 millimeter guns and 25 millimeter guns, this can cause damage, crippling damage to the aircraft carrier. Don't kid yourself. So they could take down a multi-billion-dollar aircraft carrier with those go-fast boats. It's just a question of how many boats they want to throw at it. I sincerely believe if they sent 75 boats after the aircraft carrier, it would probably prevail. What if they sent 250 boats after it? They can. The aircraft carrier has, what, a 2% chance? They also have submarines. They can also lay naval mines. They may have mined a lot of area already. The tactic of Iran closing the Persian Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz, which is close to them, is something that they likely will try, because it will bring the world to its knees, because it cuts off 20% of the oil flow in the world. 20%. Massive problem. Okay? If you do that, oil at the pump for your car is not going up 20%. It's going to probably go up 200%, because the fear factor is going to be overwhelming. Companies need to have fuel or they're out of business. Who are such companies? Anybody shipping with containers or tankers for grain or oil or anything, right? Anybody running fleets of trucks, anybody running fleets of airplanes. You getting the idea? All right. Gas stations, little insignificant things. So there's a thing called the futures market. So they're going to lock in to get that gas in the future at a certain price. Very quickly, they're going to go in and buy that stuff. And then it's going to keep going up and up. But they're going to try to buy it early on, so they know that they can buy the gas down the road 2 months at a certain price. Now, if the price is lower on the open market than what their option gives them the right to buy it at, they just don't execute the option. And they lost the money on the option, big deal. And then they just buy on the open market. So they're going to do it for insurance. And that's going to wreck gas prices at the pump. And everything in all the stores, say Europe, South America, North America, Africa, everywhere, they move by airplane, ships, trains, trucks, all of which use gas. So their cost of delivering goods goes up. Therefore, your cost to buy as a consumer various goods in the store, focusing on food and other essentials, is going up, and your inflation is going up. Now, when you're talking about this going up double or triple, you're really going to suffer. Everything in your shopping cart is going to go up, I don't know, 10 cents, 15 cents, 5 cents. I don't know. It's going to go up maybe 25, 40 cents even in some cases. Everything in your cart goes up. Your grocery basket is going to go up, and you're going to look at it in disbelief. Then you're going to start saying, well, it takes me 5 miles to get to the supermarket, or 8 miles. I'm not going to go once a week. I'm going to try to go every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. So you're going to load up your groceries because you don't want to burn the gas. So you're going to start not wanting to go places because it's going to burn your gas. So you might have a pickup or an SUV and you're paying $15, $18 at the pump. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't have to. Taking your kids to school is going to be painful economically. So you could try carpooling and splitting gas, or carpooling, like you take the kids one day, somebody takes them another day, and another day, stuff like that. Or all kinds of things, try to get on the school buses, and they're going to be paying a lot more for fuel, and I don't know what they're going to do. They might have to tell everybody they got to spend $10 a month to get bus service, or $20 or something like that to cover the gas. It's going to get crazy. So why would Iran do that? Because they know it's immensely difficult for America to break that blockade. Okay? They could take 50 A-10 Warthogs and fly them around every day, find go-fast boats and shred them. But then Iran might just put mines in and use whatever few submarines they have. It's nuts. You're dealing with psychotics. So what they would try to do, and I've never heard anybody talk about this, that was from the military or from, an intelligence organization. What they would try to do is get into negotiations with America and whoever else is bothering it and say, okay, you want me to open up the Persian Gulf? I can do that today. Can you take the sanctions off today and stop messing around with the protesters in Iran? If you do that, I'll open the Persian Gulf up completely. I want all sanctions removed. What does Trump do? Does Trump have a good option? No. Does he have an option? Yeah. And that's to take out the Navy. Now, how is he going to take out the Navy with all the, ships impersonating civilian vessels and stuff like that? He's not going to float his warships in there. He's going to use aircraft that Iran can't do beans about. And they'll take out these go-fast boats and these other things. But it's going to be painful. Now, the go-fast boats are not open ocean boats, okay? They're not going across the Atlantic or anything like that, okay? They might be able to venture out a little bit into the Indian Ocean, but I don't even think they get that far. They're not, able to go. They're not going to carry, 3,000 miles of fuel. They might carry 300 miles of fuel, They can maybe arrange to refuel them, but that's not it. Could they use them in the Straits of Hormuz to close the Straits of Hormuz? 100%. Would it work? 100%. Would the nations not know what to do? Well, the Pentagon would understand the options, but they wouldn't execute. They wouldn't know what to do. They would try to negotiate. And now Trump is negotiating out of weakness. So what is Trump doing to stop Iran from doing this? Nothing. There isn't nothing that he really can do. If he peppers the region with U.S. warships, Iran will just sink them. A lot of people think that these warships are they're not going to get sunk. Look, historically, going back into Vietnam days and going to, more to World War II, Iran used warships as throwaway assets. America used them as throwaway assets. And Trump doesn't have an unlimited amount of Navy warships, and he has to be concerned with more serious threats like China, North Korea, and Russia, not worrying about lunatics like Iran that has no Navy to speak of. So what does Trump do? Well, that's what you see today. You don't see a high buildup of ships. Okay? Now, I heard one goof sitting there saying, they bring the aircraft carriers in so they can do search and rescue on downed pilots. Are you kidding me? Somebody believes this? That they're going to bring a capital ship with 4 escort vessels in just to do search and rescue on a downed pilot, which they could do by launching out of, the UAE, Qatar, a lot of places. They don't need to do that. So they could also rescue by air. Although that could be a little dangerous with the Iranian air defenses. See, Iran is not Venezuela. Okay, Venezuela are not Muslims. Nobody thinks it's okay to get killed and go to paradise and get you 70 virgins. They don't think that in Venezuela. They're more inclined to think those who die with the most amount of money win. Okay, so they got a different mindset. Does America have aircraft in the area now? Well, they're hitting Syria the other day, so they just take the pilots hitting Syria and give them a new target package. That's all. Yeah, they got plenty. I believe they still got a bunch in Diego Garcia, and I'm sure they have a bunch at Ramstein, which could come here in hours, and they probably have them in different bases around the Middle East. So there's aircraft here. Does America need a lot of aircraft? Well, I don't know. I would think they can make it with 70, 250 if they really wanted to get serious. But bear in mind, they start with 70, right? And then they just transfer more planes over from America and Europe with, en route air refueling. And they just run them from there, They might actually base them in Israel. So are they just going to go in and obliterate Iran? No. What they're trying to do is get a regime change in Iran. That's the best for Trump. Nobody blew up the oil refineries. How does Trump know Iran doesn't have a button in Khomeini's desk and he pushes it and then all the oil refineries go up in flames. You think they couldn't have engineered that? They could have. Other countries have threatened to do that. Venezuela, I think, threatened that. So that turns back the oil business for months or years in Iran. Trump wants the oil. I don't think Trump cares about the pistachio nuts. He's after the oil. So if Trump's going to strike, what is his goal? His goal is to stop the executions and the slaughter in the streets, I should say, of the Iranian protesters. And over 10,000 have been killed by now, way more than that. And Trump knows that. So you hit the IRGC bases. And you hit the IRGC bases and facilities and command centers without going in and taking down the Iranian air defenses. You just use aircraft that are stealthy. The F-35s, for instance, can use glide bombs at about 50 miles from the target, and they could fly high. And the Iranian air defenses are not going to really be able to get a lock on them, and they could launch bombs at the IRGC. Drones could also be launched at the IRGC bases, and they blow them up because they're the ones killing the Iranian protesters. So if Trump keeps hitting all the IRGC bases, how many days do you think it's going to take until the IRGC gives up on this and they just take their uniforms off and go home? It's not going to take that long, is it? There's nothing that Iran is going to be able to do to protect those IRGC guys in any effective way. That's not going to happen. Okay, I'm done. Let's see, make sure people are coming in. Yeah, we're fine. They're not going to be able to effectively handle that. So they're going to be failing in their mission. Hold that New Testament. I'm going to do some praise. There is no God. So that's what you're going to see Trump do. Okay? Now, what has Israel done? Israel is on high alert. Are we on our top level of alert? Yes. Why? Israel believes there's going to be a deep strike, a hard strike, a big hit in Iran. Trump's not going to try an obliteration, like he's not going to, try to drop 1,600 bombs and then wait a day and call them up on the phone. Hey, you want more or are you done? It'd be more of a very difficult blow, but a blow, not 20 blows or multiple blows. In other words, he's not going to try to definitively end the whole thing. He's going to try to give him a taste of what's to come. Okay? And see how they take it. But he's got to stop them from attacking the protesters, or the protesters will soon stop being protesters. Okay? Too many are getting killed. They don't want it. They're going to stop. And then Iran wins. Now, I'll be the first to say I think this is over Trump's head. Okay? This is a very, very delicate situation, and it is not over the head of the majors and the colonels, who are frequently not Satan bots, just bright people that joined the military and work out the strategies and the plans and kick it upstairs to the bureaucrat nincompoop espot generals. And the problem is Trump is going to be debating with the generals, not so much the colonels and the majors. That's the problem. So Trump's got to make a move, I would say, by tomorrow, Wednesday. People are getting slaughtered. If Trump does nothing by Monday, I would think the protests would die off. I'll be right back. Grab something. I think they'll die off about next week. And that basically means Trump's got to start all over again. By the way, the Trump's winning. The Iranian banks have sided with the protesters, but I think the currency became worthless. Let me verify that. What is the current trading price for the Iranian rial? On the black market, it's trading $1 is equal to 1,450,000 to 1,475,000 Iranian rial. The official market data is different. It shows stronger, but I don't know. Let me go to xe.com. Somebody said it basically it's not trading anymore. Let's see. Oh, while we're here, let's go through it. Let's run the US dollar against the euro. US dollar came up a little. It's basically worth 85 cents against the euro, which is a little bit more strength than it did have. Let's try it against the GBP. Yeah, it got strength. It's basically British pound's worth about $1.26. It was up in the $1.30 something range. Let's see how it goes against the shekel. Well, it's about the same with the shekel. No, it went up a tiny bit. One US dollar buys 3.14 shekels. I think it was lower than that, but it hasn't really moved much with the shekel. Now, France did take non-essential personnel out of their embassy like yesterday, I think. Not too many other embassies have done that. So that tells me Trump is not informing the other embassies of an attack. Now, France may actually be helping in the attack with America, so they did that. Or maybe they just did it. I don't know. Australia in the past has done this. I mean, they're still evacuated. I don't know if they're totally or partially evacuated. Very few countries have really done anything with evacuating their embassy in Iran. So, does that tell us anything? No, because America may not think it's worthwhile telling them because he's not going to strike them. Trump's just going to strike IRGC. See, if Trump can strike the IRGC to a point where they no longer go after the Iranian population, he can possibly get the Iranian populace to have a victory over the mullahs. That doesn't meet prophecy. Prophecy is the whole country's getting busted up so bad, everybody got to go. They leave it. So, what was that? I don't think just hitting the IRGC is going to cut it. And the chances of a retaliation from Iran after they get hit, I would give it 99%. So what I'm telling you is, yeah, Trump's going to hit them, and yeah, they're going to retaliate, and then what? It's going to be a big war. And I expect Yemen will go down too, and probably Iraq. Well, after this war starts, will Trump bring aircraft carriers over? Yep. Yep. He won't put them in the Persian Gulf until Iran's dead. But he'll put them in the Sea of Oman or Indian Ocean. He'll put them in the Mediterranean. I don't think he'll go to the Red Sea until Yemen is dead. How many would he bring? Probably 3. Is he going to bring troops? No. It's ridiculous. He can't get enough troops to occupy. He's got to destroy them by air, by helicopter, by plane, by missiles, that type of thing. Could Trump get cute and bring submarines into the Persian Gulf? Stealthily, yes. Could they position themselves, maybe 200 miles from Iran, or maybe 75 or 60? Yeah. Could they stay underwater? Oh, sure. Nuclear? No problem. Do these submarines have 16 tubes to launch missiles? Yes. So if he brings 2 of them in there, or even 3, they hold, I believe, 64 missiles. Now, they may have increased that a little yet, maybe to 80 or something. So they could each drop 64 missiles. So he could get close to 200 missiles launched if he has 3 of them. Highly accurate, all sorts of missiles can go out. They can launch from 40 feet under the surface. Do I think Iran has any capability to get them? No. I think Iran can't stop that. They would launch 16, and then they would change their location under the ground, under the water, and it would take some time to load another 16 into the tubes. And then they would be in a different position, which could be 5 miles away. 5 miles away is the same as 500 miles away when you're, trying to fire, something on the submarine to kill it. Because even if it just goes 200, 300 yards away, no cigar, you're out of luck, And then they launch again. And this goes on all day, and then they run out of missiles. So then they stay submerged. They go out. It'd probably take them a day to go out and pick up new missiles and come back in, and then launch again. But in addition, American planes are still bombing them. So we got to see what happens. What Trump's got to really watch, and I hope he pays attention, but he probably won't. I don't hope. I mean, I don't know. They're going to attack Israel. They're going to attack the American bases, which are Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. That's about it. 7. Was it 6 or 7? Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. 6. So it'll be 6 bases. Well, some of these have 2 or 3 bases in there. And then plus Israel makes 7. That's where I got the 7 from. So I really don't want to see Israel get attacked and take the damage and incur the debt and all that stuff, but I'm afraid it probably will if this goes on. And they had a 17% penetration rate back in June with their missiles getting through our defenses. So I don't know what it'll be this time. The missiles could have been improved and the defenses would have been improved. So I don't know. In addition, there's not going to be a lot of American warships running around to try to do takedowns on the Iranian missiles. Now, there will be protective measures coming out of Saudi Arabia and Jordan, taking down the missiles. That'll help us. I don't think anything is going to come out of Syria to protect it. The downside is Iraq may shoot missiles at us, but the positive would probably be they don't have the good missiles. So what Iran would try to do is launch drones, shoot missiles, have Iraq launch drones, shoot missiles, have Yemen shoot missiles, launch drones, overwhelm our facilities. Trump, I don't think, cares too much about Israel, but doesn't want to see Israel busted up. What Satan wants is a country called Israel, a fake Israel, where he runs it through his people that run Israel, that answer to him. And he wants to fill it with his chosen people, the Mosses. And everybody runs around like it's a real Israel, and, it's not. It's a farce, the way he's got it. Satan tries to run it. It still is the land of Israel, and God's doing the work that he wants to work, and Satan doesn't understand how God works. Remember what it says. If he knew what was going on with Yeshua, he wouldn't have killed Yeshua. He wouldn't have arranged to have him killed. Also, when they were with the demons going into pigs in that story, the demons said to him, they knew who he was, and said, "Oh, Son of God, did you come here to torment us before the time?" Now, how did they know he was Son of God? Well, Satan knew what he looked like from heaven. Okay, that's not hard to understand. But Yeshua was not running around with this human body up in heaven, was he? No. There's no flesh human bodies up in heaven. So how did the demons know? Because the demons saw his spirit, like they recognized the Holy Spirit in you. So they knew who he was. Would that apply to Apostle John, Enoch, Elijah? Yeah, so they have their hands full too. So let's see what gold and silver is doing. You're going to see gold and silver go nuts when this goes down. And I don't know one way or the other if Trump wants it to go high or not. I don't know. Because he never went through with the Fort Knox inventory. Remember, he was doing that with Musk and they're talking about it, and he never told us anything about it. He just stopped talking about it. That's how Satan bots behave. They just let it go away if they can. And yeah, well, something's wrong there, right? But everybody still thinks he's a great president. He pulled a massive deception on him on a 10 scale, 10 being the greatest. He pulled an 8. How much gold's in Fort Knox, and he won't tell you. And people keep saying he's a great guy. He's just another piece of garbage like all the other presidents with a much better dialogue. That's all. He's got a better dialogue than the others. And I think he's crazy. He wants to talk about using the military against Greenland. Oh, Mexico, by the way, some of these great experts are telling you that Mexico is staging troops up by the border of America to stop America from doing incursions into Mexico to stop the cartels. All right. What do you think the Americans are going to do? Let's see. They take 2,500 Rangers and they put them in personnel carriers, trucks, Humvees, and they open up the border gates and they just start driving into Mexico to go wage war on a cartel hundreds of miles into Mexico. That's like really stupid way of thinking. Do we have troops on the border? Yeah. Did Mexico put troops on the border in recent months? Yes. To interdict drugs and stuff? Yes. Did they make any arrests? Yes. How many? 10,000. Does that explain troops on the border? It does. However, we got an anomaly here. They're increasing the amount of troops up on the border. And in their capital city, which is Mexico City, I believe, they're putting artillery and other heavy weapons to stop the Americans. So let me think. What we're being told by these morons is that the drug cartels are in Mexico City, and the Mexican government is putting up artillery and other things to stop the American government from destroying the cartels in downtown Mexico City. Gee, what do they do? Go to the parks and grow marijuana and cocaine in the parks? And what do they do? Make fentanyl in the government offices in the Capitol? You see the harebrained thinking? It's like Roger Rabbit analyzing the war. It's stupid. It's really stupid. They're likely protecting themselves against the cartels overthrowing them when Trump hits them. So the Jewish woman that runs Mexico, rest assured, she's a Satan bot. I give you a guarantee of that. She is working with Trump, and she's being told that Trump is going to hit, probably by the Americans, is going to start hitting the cartels. And she saw what happened to Maduro, and she doesn't want to wind up, on the same floor in the women's wing prison in New York with Maduro, screaming out, "Hey, Maduro, it's me! Yeah, I hear you. How you doing?" She don't want that. You couldn't do that in a jail, by the way. It wouldn't work. It's probably a different floor. Um, So people are saying she's staging to stop America in Mexico. She's not. She's trying to protect herself from the cartels because she's going to play ball with Trump. Now, why hasn't Trump hit the cartels yet? I don't know. I don't have a good reason for that. I don't know. You got me on that one. I don't know why he hasn't hit him yet. Maybe he's afraid to have too much on his plate at one time. Or maybe he doesn't really, I don't know. I don't know. Probably she's afraid to hit the cartels, but she will stop, she will interdict her own people trying to reach America carrying drugs and arrest them for illegal possession. That's what she's doing. Why doesn't he hit Cuba? He doesn't have to. He just waits for Cuba to collapse from not getting any money from Venezuela. Why doesn't he hit Venezuela? Well, he's got some sort of plan that he hopes and dreams is going to come through for Venezuela, and it may or may not. He's not getting very far with Venezuela. This story of, so many billion barrels of oil. I didn't hear the Venezuelan government say they're doing that. Maybe they did. I don't know. But he doesn't have control of Venezuela. Don't even believe that. The woman that was his vice president is the one running the country. So it's the same administration. So what Trump really needs them to do is that government needs to step down. Does that get rid of the drug cartels? No. How can Trump get rid of the drug cartels? Well, stop them from walking above ground is about the only way they're going to do it. He hasn't done that yet. But he wants their oil. What he's trying is a different approach. Now, he might try the same thing in Venezuela, but I doubt it. It got too bloody. He doesn't want that. So, what, Israel and America and probably other countries are responsible for this uprising in Iran. If he stops the IRGC from stopping attacking the protesters and just letting them run wild, it'll be a few brief days. It'll be like France and, Marie Antoinette, it's not going to take long. And they'll have all the government buildings and then somebody's got to come in and stabilize them. If the Iranian military throws their uniforms away and scatters, that's a very, very good sign. I'm told the mullah, the big one, what's his name, Khomeini, the supreme leader, has $250 billion. He's not as big as Musk. He's about a third or so, or a fourth the size of Musk. But he's pretty big. I mean, that's a lot of cabbage, $250 billion. He might take that into Russia. I don't know how many billion Putin's going to charge him, probably 25 billion. Putin's got so much money, but what does he do with it? You know, he's afraid Trump will send the Green Berets or the Navy SEALs to catch him and bring him to America or kill him. So he's afraid. He's afraid. So does it mean Iran's going to attack Israel? Well, this is a crazy thing. If Iran might do preemptive strike, they really might. Okay, but not highly likely. What they would be the most prone to do is think Trump doesn't have enough guts to do anything and keep killing the protesters and hope they can kill enough of them that the protests stop. And now we wait and see if Trump's got enough guts to stop him. I think he does. And because it's no big deal, And he'll have to deal with what to do if Iran starts striking his military bases and the oil producing countries in the region and Israel, and maybe launching sleeper agents in America and all that stuff. Trump's going to have to retaliate. Trump will be in Iran war footing that he could win, but it'll be a heavy price to pay. Do I think we're going to see fighting this week? Yep. You're going to see fighting this week. Trump, I think, is, as much as I'm not a fan of Trump, I think Trump does understand enough to realize that he's going to have to fight or they're not going to get anywhere. Now, he would have to be the village idiot to think that the protesters are going to come and overthrow the Iranian military bases, the military cities, the nuclear facility. No, that ain't going to happen. And Trump's intel told them that. But what they are doing is attacking the lesser outlying cities where the IRGC and the police have bases. Look, the police are joining them. The banks are joining them. Every day, every other day, somebody else in the government's going to start joining them. And the IRGC, when they start giving up the ghost, that's it. Let's see how many IRGC there are. Let's take a look at that. How many IRGC are there in Iran? Nobody knows exact. We come in at 125 to 190,000. Their ground forces tend to run 100,000. They have a navy which is in the Strait of Hormuz, probably on immature boats, 20,000. Their aerospace, their missile and drone and air defense people are 15 to 20,000. Their Quds forces they operate outside of Iran are 5 to 10,000, and cyber intelligence are a few thousand people. Then they have a militia called the Basij, Basij militia, which we don't know. It could be up to 1 million, but only a small fraction of them are activated at one time. But even if it's just a fifth, it's 200,000. 200,000 if it's a fifth. Now, the Iranian protesters maybe killed 25, 35, 40 police, and thousands of them are dead, So we're just going to have to hang on and watch this thing develop and see where it goes. But I'm rather certain Trump knows if he doesn't make a move, Iran's going to crush the protesters, which were very likely supported and promoted by Israel and America, possibly other countries. And Iran's going to try to build more missiles and gear up and try to hurt America and Israel even more. And it's going to be worse than it was, and they could shut the Persian Gulf and everything else. So he's in. He's got to be committed, and that's it. And he'll do something. I'm pretty sure he's going to actually do something. I don't know exactly what yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to have to be some sort of a strike on the some sort of a strike on the IRGC. If he doesn't go after the IRGC, he didn't do anything to take the pressure off of the protesters, and they'll eventually get destroyed. And that's it. And when they get destroyed, they'll be extremely mad at Trump and not interested in any replays or anything like that. So let's take a look at other things going on. Now, Trump's not shooting for a big war, but I think he's going to wind up with one. He doesn't know that. Now, there's something I want to point out. We're in what's called the year of recompenses, which is payback to the nations. It says in Isaiah 34:8, the year of recompenses, because of the controversy of Zion, because they don't want to let Israel get all their land back, be the head of the nations, and so forth. But the Jews come live there and all that. They keep playing these games. And it's not going to work out. So for them. Now, Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, is dead. Sinwar, the head of Hamas, is dead. And I would say that there's a high probability that Khomeini will wind up dead. But when Sinwar got killed and Nasrallah got killed, it didn't stop the movement. So killing Khomeini is probably just going to bring in his number two and not stop the movement. The leader of Cuba says no one dictates what we do, as Trump tells the regime to make a deal. So, what are you looking at here? You're looking at Trump showing weakness, and all the countries know it, and they're standing up to him. So he's got to start delivering on his promises, or they'll just, when he calls, they'll just hang up the phone. The IDF says it's on alert for surprise scenarios as the U.S. mulls military strikes on Iran. Israel said to believe Trump will make good on threat to attack in support of anti-regime protesters, as the U.S. puts a 25% tariff on countries doing business with Iran. Any country that does any kind of business with Iran, buying ice cream, pistachio nuts, anything, Trump's putting a 25% tariff. So any goods that country tries to sell to America get bumped up by 25%. So what are we dealing with here? China and India are buying oil from Iran, and if they keep it up, they're going to pay. That's going to get India and China madder at Trump. And that 25% is likely going to go up to 50 or 100% very quickly. Will that hurt Iran more? Yeah. It's not going to be the end of anything, though. The countries that are doing business with Iran that are likely to get hit in the head hardest with this 25% tariff is China, Brazil, Turkey, Russia, and I say also India. I don't think 25% is going to be enough initially. I think it'll be 50, 100%. And he's not getting anywhere with tariffs, but he keeps trying. Trump is saying, oh, diplomacy with Iran is the best thing. Trump, wake up. They're killing hundreds and thousands of people every day, and you're playing diplomacy with these mental midgets. So this whole thing about a meeting being set up with Trump, the Iranians denied that ever happened. They said they never reached out to Trump. Can you believe the Iranians? You can believe them as far as you could throw them. You can't. Trump, no, Israel's told this to Lebanon, to Beirut. They said Israel has a destructive plan to, in case Hezbollah intervenes in a possible war between Iran and Israel. That is, I suppose, to try to encourage them to disarm Hezbollah, which they're not really doing. They're making it look like they're doing it, but they're not doing much. Now pay attention to this. This is a discussion program that should be embarrassing to the Turkish people, but they don't embarrass, I don't think. If we cannot ethnically completely cleanse the Kurds, we cannot eliminate them. I've told you this before. I look at the Kurds and I see Jews by the way they look. Okay? That's what I see. Not everyone, but a lot. And now Turkey, which is a satanic country, wants to genocide them. Where did we see this before? Well, we saw this with the American government and the North American Indians, didn't we? Sure we did. And that's why I think the Kurds really are Jews. Now, it says when we hit redemption, they're going to come out of the north and come back into Israel. Well, the Kurds are up in the north in Syria, and they're in Turkey, and that's north of Israel. So let's see what happens. Why would he want to annihilate them anyway? You see what I'm saying? What did Hitler do with the Jews? He wanted to genocide them. You getting the idea yet? Yeah. Okay. The Iranian parliament speaker, that's like the Speaker of the House, Mohammed Bagher Galabai, to Trump. Come and see how we will destroy all your positions in the region. Come and see how Iran's defenders will burn you into America's history. They're good at threatening, aren't they? Come and see how Iran's defenders will burn you into America's history. Okay. Delusional Trump. Do not believe the lies you are told. Mashhad has not fallen. They're saying one of the cities has not fallen. Iran's defenders are present, and Imam Reza is present. They're very good at this. They don't have what to work with, so they run around threatening. A fire broke out, damaged Mississippi's largest synagogue before dawn on Saturday. Today is Tuesday. The same house of worship in northeast Jacksonville that the Ku Klux Klan bombed in 1967 because the rabbis supported civil rights. The Jackson Fire Department, the FBI, and the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives arrested a suspect Saturday night in the latest blaze after the fire department ruled it arson, according to Chief Fire Investigator So the anti-Semitism is continuing, right? The Ku Klux Klan and the Jews in the South, predominantly if the Jews kept their mouth shut and didn't do anything like set Hanukkah candles in the window or on the roof or, promote the Judaism very openly, and they didn't walk around with the black and the white on or the kippah and the tzitzit. They more or less left them alone. And they were there, and they ran department stores, they did clothing stores, they did jewelry and diamonds, banking sometimes. If they kept the low key, they were Ku Klux Klan generally left them alone. They were like, I don't remember it. They didn't go out and hang them on the trees and stuff. They'd start a fire or something like that. What they're not saying is this guy was promoting civil rights with the blacks, and that's why the Ku Klux Klan went after him. They would have went after somebody at a university who wasn't Jewish that was promoting that as well. Okay. So all Americans in Iran have been ordered by the United States to leave immediately. Immediately means immediately. Why? Well, for one, they'll start using them as hostages. They want them out. Most of them that are there would be American citizens that are Muslims, and they're probably not going to leave. I'm guessing on that. Airlines have been canceling flights in Iran until January 16th, and that could always be extended. The Americans in Iran are told to go out by land through Armenia or Turkey. Trump doing cyber attacks, if you hear that against Iran, is not a great idea because Iran has got pretty good personnel doing cyber attacks themselves. It'd just be a cyber war not a very productive course for America to pursue. Trump and diplomacy with Iran doesn't work. You're not going to get anywhere with that. This is very interesting. Iran's state TV has asked people for blood donations. Now, also, Israel's put our hospitals on alert for this attack from Iran. So Israel is taking this seriously, believe me. It could also mean Israel may strike Iran first. Now, I don't have all the details on this, but this is what I'm getting. 2 nights ago, the night before last night, it was reported that U.S. troop movement near Iran. Now, were these special forces? Did any further details come out? No. No, we don't know what they were. There wasn't a huge amount of forces, you know. The Iranian regime is saying Trump's remarks about having a meeting with them and all that is psychological warfare. The Khomeini, supreme leader of Iran, is saying that Trump is using biblical imagery. I'll explain. Khomeini issues a pointed warning to Trump, invoking religious symbolism that resonates in the Islamic world. He goes on, the Khomeini character goes on and says, now he's got a big mouth talking like this. It's kind of humorous. Tyrants and despots, like what the heck is he? Like Pharaoh. Well, he's like Pharaoh. Nimrod, Reza Khan, and Mohammad Reza were always overthrown at the height of their arrogance. This one, meaning Trump, will also be overthrown. Yeah, pride cometh before a fall, although he's not quoting that. Khomeini's warning isn't just political, it's a theological, by invoking Nimrod linked to the Tower of Babel alongside Pharaoh and the Shahs. Trump is cast as a tyrant defying God. Well, they're right about that. Western leaders often fail to grasp such methods, but in the Middle East, this is high impact messaging grounded in shared religious history. Bottom line, Khomeini casts Trump as a doomed biblical tyrant. He should read the prophecy about his own country. A warning heard loud and clear in the region and mostly lost on the West. The assessment in Israel is that Trump will attack Iran, and soon. I believe this. And it will not be a symbolic strike, but a strong, determined attack aimed at shaking the regime to the point of collapse. So the Iranian people can finish the job at bringing down the Ayatollah. That's what he intends to do. Help the people bring down the Muslim regime in Iran. That's it. And that way he'll step in and, oh, what are you going to do? Well, the sanctions are off. The Shah's funds in control. The Shah and his son, the rephrase, the son of the dead Shah is in control. Okay? Sanctions are gone. Economic aid is coming. We're going to get the World Bank. We want you to have, a Disneyland, a Marvel Studios, Great America. We want you to have all the alcohol you can drink. Watch all the lousy, stinking movies and TV shows that we can give you from America and Europe. Buy cars. Go sit in bars. Have discos. Walk around in the beach topless with songs on. This is what Trump wants for them. It's not. It doesn't match prophecy, guys. It's going to get out of control. Okay, that's what I guess I should say. Okay. If there is no help for the protesters, what this is going to be is it's going to be a massacre by the Muslim leaders of Iran on the we the people of Iran. I'm not Iranian. Of such a magnitude, they're going to remember it for 100 years. So you're probably looking at about, 100,000 dead before it'll be over. The Iranian defense minister and his latest threats. We will have painful military surprises in response to any attack. Any country that allows an attack against us or provides bases to the enemy to carry out an attack against us will be a legitimate target for our forces. So if you even let America put bases there to attack them, they'll go after you. Who does that? Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. And they'll just attack Israel on general grounds. Okay? Who doesn't allow it? Well, Oman. Who else? Iraq, Lebanon, Turkey, and probably Saudi Arabia. And probably Syria. We will strike enemy targets anywhere in the event of any aggression. And I would point out that the genocide, let's call it that Iran is participating in or actually doing in Iran, the UN seems perfectly okay with it, right? They don't care. The president of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, announced that following the conquest of the Iranian regime against the protesters, she has decided to ban the entry of Iranian diplomats to all buildings uh, of the European Parliament. Well, that's pretty good. Why didn't she just ban all unclean spirits from coming in the buildings? She can. We can. She can. Um, Hannah Newman, a representative of the European Parliament on behalf of Germany, called on all European Union countries to align their positions and expel Iranian ambassadors and diplomats from their territories. That's breaking relations with the country, and that is usually a prelude to war. Um, the Iranians threatening to do anything and everything is very normal for them. Okay, so that's the Iran situation, and I think it's very serious. I think it's extremely serious, and I think it should be taken seriously. And I think we're going to see a real fight here because there's not any way out. Everybody's painted into a corner, and that's it. Israel is not going to go rescue the Iranian people because Israel is a tool of Trump right now. I'm sad to say, and that's in the Bible. The yoke, the nations have the yoke around their neck. Trump will look like the village idiot if he tells Israel to go in there and save Iran. He wants the oil and the credit. He can't do that. So believe it or not, I think we're at a real big point where things can change very quickly. Okay, so sometimes you're going to come across somebody that's gravely ill. Now, I've seen this with people that I'm very sure are Satan bots. They don't know the scriptures. They're Satan bots. In my life, I've seen this, and they're not necessarily listening to broadcasts I'm doing or anything like that. They're working against me. Sometimes I'm not even friends with them, and they get really sick, like surgeries, They got to go to the hospital for treatments for various things. And, then I've also seen people that I do not believe are Satan bots by a long shot. And they get gravely ill. Now, people could get gravely ill for a lot of reasons, okay? First of all, you got to try to make a differentiation between old age and gravely ill. People get into old age when? When they're old. Things stop working well, okay? So they start getting a multitude of difficulties and problems, believe me, okay? This is normal aging. Is aging a curse? I would personally think it is. It doesn't necessarily say that in the Bible, so maybe it's not. It could be construed that way, I suppose, but not necessarily. Will it cause death? It will. You're not supposed to live for 450 years, so it will cause death. Okay? But then people get other things that happen to them. And that could be God chastens those he loves. They could be believers, and they're just not getting it. Okay? I am afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say this. I will say, I think there's a large amount of people out there that are listening to unclean spirits from time to time and don't understand that they're unclean spirits. Satan comes as an angel of light. People in the church are listening to this all the time through people and maybe otherwise. That's how the unclean spirits like to come at you to destroy you, as making you think they're an angel or they're Yeshua or Jehovah or the Holy Spirit or something like that. See, these people don't care. The demons don't care. Imagine they're like somebody on death row in a jail waiting to get executed. So if somebody crosses their path and bothers them, are they going to care about killing that person? Why? What good what's the point of it? If the government decides to prosecute them for that murder after they've already been in jail and close to their execution, then not only do they get to go through the trial, they get to go through all their appeals, which could take many, many years. So by killing another person, they could, in reality, if the state government wanted to push it or the federal government wanted to push it, they could extend their execution date by maybe 5 years. More, 7 years. So you see, it's a lunatic bin, the American legal system. So the demons are just waiting for punishment. They believe their punishment can't get worse. Well, I don't think that's true. I think Satan has deceived them about that. And I believe their punishment can be worse. In other words, there might be more horrific spots to be in the lake of fire. They may not all be the same. Okay. But, I know I'm doing warfare against somebody that I believe is operating against me indirectly, not from this channel or anything. And this person is, really so ill, incredibly ill. And I've seen this, One thing I've noticed with a lot of Satan bots, false believers and otherwise, is they get into hunting. Now, there's very, very, very few of us that are actually hunting to get food. Okay? Uh, Very rare. Okay? There might be some believers in rural areas that actually go out and bag a moose or a deer or something like that and, cut it up and skin it and use it for meat. Now, you can do that. There's no sin there at all. Okay? But a lot of these Satan bots go out, and I'm telling you, they just like death, and they like death to animals. Killing anything to them is pleasurable. They enjoy it. They like to, I'm a predator, and stuff like that. And it's, I mean, you got a lot of commercially available meat, so you can just use that and do other things with your life. That's one way you're going to spot them. Another way you're going to spot them is they're rarely going to run out of money or fall apart economically. Now, there are some low end Satan bots that don't have a lot of money. It happens. They work in I knew one once that worked in a big store that was trying to befriend me. You know, uh, you know, they don't make a lot of money. Now, sometimes what this one was likely doing was working his way up in the store and getting promotions to head of different departments, I assume, and then maybe a store manager, and then they can make out okay. Uh, you could go to McDonald's, or I heard McDonald's is leaving California. I didn't verify. It's probably true. I don't know why yet. Probably money or something. Thunder. There's still supposed to be some storm today. Um, Please pray. Let me put a prayer up real quick. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray that the storm for our immediate area is not that rough, and we don't take that much rain or water, so we don't get flooding and we don't damage our electrical or our roof or our house. And I pray that all stays intact, like this, our internet, our electric, our house, our water. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and please agree with me if you're a believer. Okay, we don't want the guest house to uh, get messed up with it. It leaks and stuff like that. Okay, so let me continue. So be careful of people that just come to you and they say, the Lord showed me we're going to be friends, we're going to work together, we're going to do. Be careful about that. If that was going to be the truth, the Lord would show it to you also. The Lord wouldn't just want you to believe this person. Who is this person anyway? Are they raising the dead? Are they doing signs and wonders? What are they doing, right? So the Lord's not going to use them, not expect you to believe them carte blanche, right? So he would show you also you're supposed to be with this person and stuff like that. Now, if you see signs from this other person, well, that is, right? Okay, so be very cautious if you get a person that comes to you and tells you that. Okay, really, really, really be careful. Okay, and get by yourself and ask the Lord what's going on and see what the Lord shows you. Okay. But I'd be extremely careful about that. Now, the Satan bots are likely going to come to you with dreams, visions, or the Lord told me or showed me this. Okay? In other words, it's not a vision, it's not a dream, it's speaking or something, or illuminating or illustrating. Be extremely careful of this person. Okay? Very careful. Unclean spirit serving people will generally do self praise. They'll tell you how great they are. Okay? And be careful about that. Okay? Now, if you come in contact with somebody and all of a sudden you feel driven to them and like you like them and you don't understand why, and get away from them and demon toss them and break any and all witchcraft and spells that this person ever did in their entire life or had other people do for them in their entire life. Bust it all out and then bust the witchcraft and the sorcery and the spells, enchantments off of you for all time. And then kick back and see if it's still there. I doubt it will be. Okay. This is somebody trying to make you pull you into them and hurt you. That's all they're trying to do is kill you, basically, and send you. They want to kill you eternally, your spirit and everything else. You know, you got to be real careful with these idiots, you know. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but you might have people. I've had it in my life. They try to take things too far, apparently, and bumped me off or something like that, and they've died. I remember one drowned, and some of them die from not very normal reasons. They don't just, develop some dread disease over 2 years or 3 years and die. It's something sudden and unexpected, so it could be a car accident, it could be they do something, they're painting their house and they fall and they land right on their head and crack their neck, or it could be anything. Okay. Anything. God only lets them go so far. Okay. They erroneously believe they're children of God, which is funny, but they believe it, and they can bring judgment down on a believer because their God, Satan, they believe is stronger than Jehovah, and take your life. And they will try to do things like that. Okay. They work in hospitals. They like to get people in hospitals comfortable to accept death and die. They don't necessarily poison them or choke them or anything like that. They just, comfort them and get them to die. Witchcraft to get them to believe they're going to die and then to accept they're going to die and then let themselves die. That's what they do. And they love it. They love death. They love it. They like blood, give them blood to drink. They like death, give them death. The perpetual death in the lake of fire, the second death. Okay? So they like that. Okay? Does that mean everyone that works in these facilities is a witch? No. Those are low-paying jobs. Even nursing is not a very high-paying job. It's not that bad, but not that good either. So not all of them are that way. Now, also rest homes, rehabilitation hospitals, they do that stuff too. what part of the newspaper, when there were literal newspapers, did they like to read? The death notices. Yeah, they loved that. Who died? They love seeing death. They're so obsessed with death, you wouldn't believe it. You know, they're so into that, you know. They're the ones that will be cold-hearted towards killing a dog or a cat or a bird or, they don't mind. They actually enjoy death experiences with animals, killing animals. They like anything to do with death. Okay, yeah, they like it. Now, some of them are so messed up in the head they can't do things right. Do a lot of Satan bots wind up in the prison system? Yep. These would be more or less the uncontrollable Satan bots that don't listen to the demons and they don't turn against the demons, but they go out on their own and they get caught and they wind up in jail and the demons let them go to jail. There's tons of them in jail. Tons. Tons. Why? They're screwballs. There's a lot of Satan bots that can't get their act together, and they got to resort to criminality. They can't work like straight work. They got to be criminals. Drug dealers, big drug dealers. Those are Satan bots. Pimps running prostitutes, frequently a Satan bot. That's how he gets the girls to go out and do all these horrific things all the time and then turn around and give him the money. And usually they're mixed up with drugs themselves, these prostitutes, you know. Do I know of Satan bots that work as EMTs and paramedics and ambulances? I don't. Does it sound to me like that's a Satan bot job? No, because they just have minutes with the person, and a lot of times the person is freaking out and in panic and stuff like that. And I don't know. It doesn't sound. It's too fast, too intense. It doesn't sound like a real attractive Satan bot job for them to work. You know. And do their dirty deeds. It doesn't make sense. But if you know somebody, like, let's say you've had trouble with a neighbor or you suspected a neighbor, and then you see the neighbor comes down with has a bad accident, got to have hips replaced or knee replacements or I don't know, anything, or they came down with some kidney disease or, something like that. That you got to look at that and think, well, the person's not a believer, no signs of being a believer, and if they're like this, it's a problem. Or let's say the person says they are a believer, but yet their doctrine stinks. They have really crap garbage doctrine, and now they're getting very, very sick. What's going on? We don't always know. Remember that. You're going to be able to look at some of these cases and dissect it and think about it for 20, 50, 200 hours, whatever, and you're still not going to really know. And that's just the way it is. You're not God. So you don't know what they really did and what really happened and why they're this way, But if if they came into your life, maybe indirectly, like they work at the same place as you, they live in the same apartment building nearby you, or something like this, right? Somehow they're in your life, okay? Um, it could be through maybe an ex-wife, or maybe kids that live with an ex-husband, or who knows. Be very careful of that and be cautious. And remember, you could always demon toss them. Because if you demon toss somebody that's not a believer, I'm sorry, that is a believer, what happens? Nothing. There's no demon there. They don't even know you tried to toss them. It's completely ineffective, and it doesn't bother them in any way, shape, or form. So you can do it. I'll be right back, and we'll continue. Okay, you can toss them. Feel free. You're not harming them. And if you made a mistake and they really are demon-filled, well, now you got the demon. You clipped them. Boy, it's getting cold in the house. We're getting storms again. Turn my heater up. Okay. Does Satan have an unlimited amount of demons? No. How can we tell? Well, he took a third of the angels out of heaven with him. That's how you can tell. Now, how can we use that and turn it against Satan? Well, it says when the unclean spirit goes out of somebody, it goes to that dry place, probably the pit. It stays there for a while, and then it goes back. And it sees its house is nice and clean and orderly. That's the person is now not a nutbag like the people that have unclean spirits. So then he brings 7 more unclean spirits with him. Now, it doesn't tell us how long they stay there, the pit. But we know we're in critical times now. So when you throw somebody out, when you throw the unclean spirits out of somebody, why not tell them to stay in the place where unclean spirits go where they're thrown out of somebody for 10 years continuously? B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. What does that do? Well, it starts getting Satan to run out of inventory of unclean spirits, doesn't it? Uh-huh. I've tested this. So it gets Satan scared to start messing around with you. Then he loses his assistance for 10 years. Okay. So how could we apply this? Well, let's apply it right now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I command all you unclean spirits to come out from every person who works for or is an independent contractor for or in any way economically employed by the governments of Iran and Israel, including the courts, their intelligence systems, their military. Depart from all these people immediately, never return unto them again, and go to the pit, the place where unclean spirits go when they're cast out of somebody, and remain there for 10 years continuously. You cannot go back out of the pit for 10 years continuously from the time you're tossed out of these people, which is now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I further command all you unclean spirits not to go into any of these people again for 10 years continuously, nor appear to them, nor guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, or assist them, or have have people try to guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, or assist them, or in any way, shape, or form try to convey instructions, advice, or orders to them for the next 10 years continuously. And if you attempt to do any of these things, any and all unclean spirits that are involved in this attempt, such as being in the person you sent to them, or you attempting to contact them somehow, any and all unclean spirits involved in trying to break these commands shall immediately cease their efforts. Their efforts shall be worthless, and go to the place unclean spirits go when they're kicked out of somebody and remain there for 10 years continuously before going out of the pit. And further, none of you unclean spirits shall go into any building, airplane, boat, piece of land, aircraft, anything owned, possessed, controlled, leased by the governments of Iran or Israel for 10 years continuously. You shall not be able to be in these places. And if you do wind up in any of these places, you shall immediately have to depart from anyone you're in. And if you're not in any person, it's the same thing. You'll have to depart and go to the place unclean spirits go where they're kicked out of somebody and stay there for 10 years continuously, never leaving that place where the unclean spirits go where they're kicked out of somebody. And all these commands are set in place irrevocably, beginning now for 10 years continuously, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. That's a practical application. So now they're going to pay a heavier price when they go in somebody and you target them. And they might not want to pay that higher price, so they may start using lower grade unclean spirits, more the dumbest of the group, or they won't use anybody. They just stay away from you. The people were afraid of the early believers in Acts 2. There's no reason why they shouldn't be afraid of us. We're not together as a Kehillah yet, But when we are, they'll be afraid of us. They were walking with the keys to the kingdom, because when you read Luke 10, it said the unclean spirits are subject to us under in your name. Subject to us means they were listening. And I believe that means more than just going out of them. They were using the keys to the kingdom. And they were using the keys to the kingdom not to take over the land, but to get the gospel spread. You read Paul praying, pray I could get the gospel out there, and it was get the gospel out, get the gospel out. They didn't understand the timing. Some of them may have, some didn't, I don't know. But they maybe did know the timing, but didn't teach it, I don't know. Yeshua, I think, once told them the time is not for you to know, something like that. We know the seasons. We don't know, and Yeshua told them that too. We don't know the precise. Now, let me caution you about some things. If you want to learn the Bible and you don't trust me, that's okay. But trust your Bible. Trust your King James. It's not perfect. Get a Strong's Concordance and look up the meanings of the word. That'll get you a lot closer. Okay? But what I don't suggest you do is start bouncing around all over the internet looking for new teachers, because I did that for years, not looking for new teachers, looking for somebody that was teaching like I was teaching. And I used to have the people look too, years and years ago. We never found anybody. We never found anybody that came close. Never found anybody that taught anywhere near the truth in prophecy, and I never found anybody that taught spiritual warfare correctly or close to it. And what you're going to wind up with is eventually you're going to stumble onto somebody that's a more accomplished false teacher, Satan bot, than the others, and it's going to confuse you. And you're going to have to unravel it. I've been doing this over 40 years, and I've unraveled them already so many times. It'd be a rare day I ever come across one with a new thought or idea. But I can unravel it quickly. But I don't know how strong you are in the word. You've got to be careful. By all means, study the Bible, I wish I could tell you that there's a good translation you could use, but there isn't. I've gone through Tyndale, Wycliffe, 1611, the current King James, American Standard, the Net Bible, Aramaic works, on down the line. And I haven't found any that are really free of errors. They're very, very full of errors. But you can still get the idea from the King James. And if you use Strong's, you get pretty close. And then if you start using the old Septuagint with Waddell and Scott for translating it into English, you get better yet. Or you could translate from the original Jusinius in German and, to English, and, you can get pretty close. And then we have the Hebrew Old Testament, and you could work that into English. So you can get pretty good, enough to get you there, okay? I got led astray a lot of times by the English Bible, the Daniel 9:24. Shavim Shavim, translated as 70 weeks, and then they go on with the weeks theories. Oh my gosh. Then I found out it really says 270s. But if you're going to go travel around looking for somebody, what you're going to get is problems, most likely. Could there be somebody else that's teaching like me? I hope so, and I wish so. I haven't found them. Could it be that there's one maybe doing this in Chinese or Russian? Or yeah, but I mean, I never heard of it. I think I would have heard of it by now. I've been doing this like 13 years. Never. Satan bots come to me and try to push me into a teacher. See, the teacher himself doesn't want to reach out to me because that gives him a diminished position in witchcraft. So what he wants is me to reach out to him. That gives him a dominant position in the witchcraft because I'm giving place to the devil. I approached him. So they send a third party to build them up and tell me to go to reach out to him. If I was to say, well, tell him, he can contact me, they wouldn't. They want me to contact them. When you see Satan bot a false believer and you're walking down the street, you could have spoken to them in church for 5 years every Sunday, and you walk 2 feet away from them and stare them right in the face, and they won't talk first. They won't talk first because they don't get the dominion. They want you to talk first. So I would sit there with some, I would sit there with some of them, keep my mouth shut, make fun of them, And that lets them know I'm not giving place to them, without talking to them or hailing them or anything like that. So their power is so crappy and weak and fragile and nothing. You shouldn't be afraid of them, okay? You could know them so well, and they won't give you a greeting. They'll just stand there. They'll stand there and never do it. When you see them, could you just toss them? Yeah, they won't like that. They won't like going out of the house. Is mocking them so evil? Well, you don't have to mock them, just toss them. But when you toss them and stuff, you're bringing them closer to salvation. Okay. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray that all the people that come in to watch these shows, listens to these shows, for whatever reason they're here, I pray that the message of the true gospel would reach them, and they would understand that Satan's just a two-bit punk loser, and they would get saved and turn to you and turn their back on that piece of garbage, Satan. And I pray for them to make it to heaven. And I pray all this to you, my heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, you can agree with that if you're a believer. Now, does that put Satan in between a rock and a hard place? To some extent. He can get out of it. There's a way you can get out of it. He can get out of it. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm going to be telling him what it is. But B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I come to you, my heavenly Father, Jehovah, to bind Satan from doing anything whatsoever at any point in time ever to stop the flow of the true gospel to reaching people all over, not having anything to do with being a Satan bot or not being a Satan bot, just reach people all over with the truth. They would repent and receive salvation. And I pray this to you sincerely, my heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this if you're a true believer. And my heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, when I say I would want you to bind Satan from doing anything to interfere with this, it would also include the people that have the true gospel, and that the unclean spirits would be bound from doing anything interfering with not just me, but all the people that have the true gospel. No, they cannot stop it or stop anything that would stop it. So in other words, they can't get in the way of stopping you from spreading the true gospel or me for all time. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this. Okay? Now, can we go to the Lord and say, this person is trying to interfere with the true gospel and stop it from spreading, therefore they're cursing Israel, they're cursing the remnant, and I pray, my heavenly Father, that you would curse them in a matter you see fit, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Yes, you can agree with what I just said too, you know. You can do that, yes. It's always up to Jehovah. The revenge is up to Jehovah. Can you suggest or ask Jehovah to do something to them? Yeah. That's not the same as you doing it. It's asking him to do it. Is he going to get mad because you asked him? Because somebody's interfering with the true gospel or making war on you for no reason other than you serve Jehovah? Nah, he's not going to get mad. I don't believe he'd get mad at you. If that troubles you, there may be a better way. It's just say, you're the judge, not me. And, you know, I just pray you judge this as you see fit, my heavenly Father. You know more than I do. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. That's a great way of doing it. He knows of ways and thinks of ways to punish that you don't. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my heavenly Father Jehovah, I bind all the unclean spirits from doing anything to make any of the people that listen to me that have the true gospel, the unclean spirits are bound from making any of these people fear any of the unclean spirits forever. They shall not have the ability, they're bound from having the ability to instill any sort of fear of themselves and their servants to the people that have the true gospel, and myself and my wife. And I pray all this to you. I submit this to you, my heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with them as a believer. let's see if that lights a fire under some of the people that are subscribers that are not bearing good fruit. Uh, we're not going to, go ye forth into all the world and, you spread the gospel. It's not just tossing demons. You got to remember that, okay? That's a tool and a part of the true gospel, okay? But it's not the total. You got to spread the gospel. All right. I'll get a prayer up for us, all of us. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for all the true believers and their families and households, and my wife and me. And I pray that we would all be safe, secure, and happy, healthy, and whole, and our animals and pets would be safe, secure, happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray your healing and recuperative power would flow through us and we would be getting healed every day as needed. And I pray we have strength, stamina, and endurance, and we can apply it to spreading the gospel. And I pray you keep showing us ways to spread the gospel. And I pray some of these ways are boots on the ground ways of spreading the gospel. And if you wish me to expand or continue somehow with the internet or expand it, then I pray you lead me there. The same for all the other people that have the true gospel. I pray that we would have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped, stuck, or stranded with any cars or vehicles or transportation devices. I pray we don't get discriminated against by any groups like Ku Klux Klans or anybody, and we don't get into discrimination from coworkers, from neighbors, from landlords, from employers, from local or state or national governments or courts or corporations or evil people. And I pray if we need clients and customers, we have them. And if we need jobs, we get them. And I pray we all have adequate money and then some extra. And I pray we all have good health. And I pray we all understand the Bible better. And I pray you would prevent the unclean spirits from being able to surveillance us in our houses or our vehicles. And I pray you would prevent them from being able to know what our communications are with other people in person or on the phone or over the internet. And I pray you end this rotten form of government in Israel that doesn't know what to do with itself. They're all divided amongst themselves and confused and bewildered. I pray you get rid of this whole government system and turn it to the two witnesses. And I pray for the two witnesses to get the light to turn green and go boots on the ground in Israel with the signs and wonders, the whole bit. And I pray that we get a better translation of the Bible somehow. And I pray that we could all meet in Israel and have places to meet and bring new believers too. And I submit all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that if you're a believer. And I hope you got something out of this. And believe me, I would not be spending the time on this thing with Iran if it wasn't prophetically so important. I never spend much time in Ukraine and Russia, do I? No. It's not that prophetically important, you know. This is. All right. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.